So as previously mentioned, for the purposes of this course, we're going to employ the Business Process Modeling Notation, otherwise known as the BPMN, for activity models. Okay? Let's learn a little bit more about the BPMN activity diagrams. Here, we've got the acronym and what it stands for. The Object Management Group maintains the BPMN specification. This was first issued in 2004, but has been widely adopted. And it's specifically designed for the process modeling. It's designed to be understood by business people, such as you and I, those pursuing accounting careers. And the software available to support modeling and subsequent process information. Now, starting out with just the very basic building blocks of the BPMN, we have to know when we start and we end a process. Okay, so you can see on the screen, if it is a start, it's just a single outlined circle. Okay, an intermediate event would be something that would possibly stop the flow for a designated amount of time, but not end the flow. So we'll see that with a circle with 2 lines on the outside. And then when we have the end of the process, we're going to do a circle with a bold outline. So now we've established when a process is going to start, maybe stop intermittently, and then end. But another very important part of this model is the activities. And activities represent specific steps in the business process. And these are modeled using rounded rectangles. And each activity is going to be described with a short verb or a phrase. So an example here would be process credit card payment, or maybe bill customer would be another short verb phrase that we could use instead of just saying activity. Now we're also going to show in our model the sequence flow, which you can see here on the screen, which is represented by arrows to indicate the progression of activity within the process. Also, you might see a diamond or have the use to include a diamond within your model, which is commonly referred to as a gateway, and it shows the process branching and merging as a result of a decision. And these usually come in pairs. The first gateway would show the branching, while the second gateway would show the merging of the process branches. And again, these are going to be related to decisions that are going to have to impact the model. So let's take a good look at a BPMN model example. Here we will analyze the checkout process at a retail store. So as we can see over here, here's the start of our process, our circle with a single outline, which is the customer presenting the item. Here we've got our flow direction, our sequence flow, coming to an activity, our rounded rectangle. Our employee is going to scan the item and identify the method of payment, which brings us to a decision depicted here by a diamond. Is the customer going to use cash or credit? So here now we're branching off to cash or credit. Okay? Depending on which direction we go, we've got another activity. So if it was credit, we're going to process that credit card. And our sequence flow is going to continue on and bring us back to another gateway here, which is simply bringing our process back together. So the first gateway branched us off into either cash or credit. The second gateway brought us back to the sequence process. And the last thing was to hear bag items. We've got that in our rounded rectangle. And then our flow goes to the end of our process, which is our bolded circle. So the picture that we just looked at, the model, it seemed a very simple representation of what happens when you go and check out an item at a store. Well, we can take it a step further and create BPMN pools and swim lanes. And you're thinking, what is that? Well, you know, think of the business as a pool, and you can map out your BPM model and actually have different what we call swim lanes. And the swim lanes would identify departments or individuals. Okay, so the pool identifies the organization. And if we were to map just a pool and have different swim lanes, those would represent the different departments or individuals involved in the business process. You know, activities are assigned to one participant to show responsibility. Each pool must include one start and at least one end, and the sequence flow must not break between start to end. So here's just a real basic example of what that would look like. You know, so if we wanted to kind of use the same example with the clerk in the store, you know, the pool here would be, you know, Best Buy or whatever store we were in. You know, swim lane 1 could be the clerk, and swim lane 2 could be the actual customer in that example. Now, sometimes we're going to have exchanges between the two participants or pools in the same process, and these we're going to designate as message flows. Message flows are shown actually as dashed lines with an arrow on the destination end and a small circle on the source end. And message flow content should be described with text, and we're going to actually see that here on the next slide. Here we have an example of somebody who has fallen ill. So we've got two different swim lanes here. We've got the patient and the doctor's office. For the patient, it starts when they are feeling ill. So they're going to go ahead and do an action here, which is request an appointment. But to do that, they have a message flow here down to the doctor's office, which is, may I have an appointment? You know, this is where the doctor's office starts. They receive the request. They assign an appointment, message flow back to our patient saying when their appointment is scheduled. Our patient takes the appointment, grabs that appointment up, and their process ends with a bolded circle. Whereas for the doctor's office, as soon as they've communicated that appointment back to the patient, their process ends with their bold circle. One thing to keep in mind is to just remember that the primary objective of process activity modeling is to describe the important steps in a business process clearly, concisely, and accurately. So, you know, we're just focusing on one business process at a time. We're clearly identifying the events that start and end the process, and we're including essential elements, but we're avoiding distracting detail, okay, for best practices. Think about a token flowing from start of an event through the process to the end of the event, and the flow of the token should be clear for all paths through the process. Label activities clearly with a verb and objective, and model getting feedback to improve accuracy and clarity. Okay, so this wraps up the BPMN modeling. Thanks for joining in.